Here we are again, another monologue, and I'd just like to say again, thank you for the emails that you send me, and I apologise that I can't always answer them. So I get so many, and I spend a lot of my time in front of screens, and it's very difficult to just keep sitting there answering emails, but I do try to read them all. And also, may I just also say a big thank you to everybody who's donated to the channel. It really helps to keep this going, and I'm very humbled by the response. So there we are, got that out of the way. And so today I want to talk a little bit about, we're constantly worried. It seems to me that the attention is focused so much on the things that we don't want. And of course, you know, as we're beginning to wake up to the various things, and you may be waking up for the very first time, or of course you may have been woken many, many years ago, and this is just a continuing of it. And one of the problems, it seems to me, if we continually focus on the things that we don't want to happen, we're not really advancing ourselves, and we're not really bringing forward the things that we do want to happen. Of course, there's got to be a balance. You can't just wistfully ignore what's going on and bury your head in the sand and say, oh, no, I'm not interested. So there is a balance to be played. But I think so much the focus is on, oh, my goodness, look at this. And oh, no, the terror of that. Or, oh, blimey, look at all of the other. And that is the problem. I feel that we're not bringing ourselves out of this quagmire of fear, which seems to be the continual thing that they want us to be in, to keep the vibrations down, and not taking ourselves up into a much higher, the higher echelons, if you like, of positive vibes. And I do try to do that on this channel. I started off, as you may remember, looking at, as I was waking up to what was going on and all the policies that the tyrannical and dictatorial government, I keep being corrected on how I say that word, the dictatorial government is pushing down on us, that none of us have actually asked for or wanted, or the way the councils are pushing out, again, things from up on high and not from the local environments. So people who are having giant plant pots, for example, shoved in the middle of their roads, or surveillance cameras, or just other measures that doesn't seem to be very helpful. And of course, we know about the 15-minute cities, the low traffic neighbourhoods, and all these sort of nefarious things which are being thrust through as part of the green agenda, net zero, the idea to reduce carbon. And of course, carbon is one of the things that we really, really and truly don't want to reduce, because it will affect us. We're at something like 400 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. And if we go down to something like 200 parts per million, then we won't really be here anymore, because plants will start to die. And if you put that into percentage terms, we are at, I think it's 0.04%, and which is barely anything. And then they want to take it right down to 0.02%. Which again, as I say, is that destined to eradicate human life and all animal life. And I think most people who are pushing this have no real concept of the damage that they're doing. They're following the fake science. They're following what everybody else is doing, the herd mentality. Oh, well, I saw it on the television, it must be right. It's in black and white on some newspaper, or some slightly skewed report that's come out, or it's the IPCC or friends of those, or it was Bill Gates or many other people who are pushing this, the WEF, the WHO, all these organisations, and people are going, well, you know, these organisations wouldn't be there, would it not, if they were not philanthropic? And I think most of us know that's complete and utter hogwash, of course. However, if you start talking about the solutions on this, you only have to look on the thumbnails on YouTube channels and then look at the numbers of people watching. And if you start talking about the solutions and things that we can actually do, you'll see how few people watch those. They're too busy getting distracted by the, oh no, what the hell just happened type videos. And the ones that terrorize you, oh my God, I must look at that, rather than the ones that are much more calm, more positive, and with a better outlook of saying, look, here's some solutions that we can do actually to fix the problem. People don't want to know. And unfortunately, those people will, of course, get left behind and will end up in those 15-minute cities and a world of oppression and what have you. Somebody sent me only this morning, says, have you not seen these prisons that are being built all over the place? Great big prisons for dissenters, people who will not conform and are going to not comply and will rise up and protest against the things. And maybe there are these things being built, and perhaps that may be where some of us will reside until we've managed to get common sense and actually put into position and in place those things that really we do want. So one of the, I've mentioned many of the things like, well, let's not be in the system, and we'll be exploring more and more of that in the course of time, of how you live in the private and not in their system. I explained the other day about if you're not in the game itself, you can't be one of the characters that they want. All of this, of course, is their system associated with the shenanigans of the birth trust that was set up in your name, and that you assume that you will play this fiction, this fictional character. And we'll get more on that to help people understand it. But better than that, there are other things that you can do, is put these people on notice. Tell them that you're not happy with them. Tell them that you're not going to fund them anymore. Let them know that this is not what you want. But on paper, not in protest, not all of that. Just tell them, you know, I'm not playing your game. I'm not in your system. I am the executor of my own trust. Thank you very much. You're the trustee. You actually have to do as I say. I'm not playing your game, because if enough people do that, then they have no one to play with and they'll go home alone. We'll just take the ball back and say, I'm sorry, you're not playing the game anymore. You're a waste of space. One of the things that I've been spending time doing away from screens is planning what I want to do with my life and the things where I want to go. I've been reading a lot of old books. Here's just a sample of them. Old books that show me the way of old life, the rural life. I'm particularly interested in the old rural life, farming, the communities that we used to have back then, the villages and those sort of things. And there's many books. Just to give you an example, one of my viewers recommended books by Adrian Bell, Corduroy, a lovely book, one of his first books, in which it talks about a young man joining a farm in the 1930s, and what it was like back in the day, just as motor cars were coming in, just before the advent of tractors, how it used to be done. Men and women on the farm, the rural area was full of life, and it was important. People knew the names of trees and plants and grasses. They knew how to get the best out of the land. We've forgotten all of that. We don't care about it, and we're so away from nature at the moment in these cities with the LED lighting and the surveillance cameras and the concrete and the tarmac and the glass and the steel, that we've forgotten actually that we are creatures of nature. Another one that I've enjoyed some time is this one here, Vanishing England, by P.H. Ditchfield and Fred Rowe, who went round in the 1920s drawing and reporting on the villages and the changes back then, and warning people that things were going bad because so much of old England was disappearing. And now, 100 years on, we can see by how much these mean new builds on farmland that have whipped away the future of potential farming for people. Land that had been for generations, people had farmed. I had it myself, when I was a young man. I was brought up on the edge of a farm, and I watched the farmer, and I watched him go out of business, and I used to play and pick up the stem the stems of clay pipes and occasionally the bowls with intricate designs on them, that for generation after generation, men and women were working on the land, men and horses ploughing the fields and getting crops. And now these mean, horrible concentration camps of new builds, the 15-minute cities of the future, all there bar the razor wire, has taken away future people's ability to farm for themselves. It's very sad. More stuff, Village Life, for example, by Norman Weimer, again of that sort of 100 years ago, talking about the various crafts of how men before machines took over and took away the dignity and the skill that man had with his hands and his brain, the ability of this amazing body that we have to create and do things. I'm not saying that life wasn't hard and was more difficult, of course. I'm not saying that. And we have very cushy, easy, convenient lives here. But there's something in the past that we have thrown away. Pride, a sense of place, a sense of purpose, a sense of community, laughter, making our own entertainment, being one with one another and looking after each other. We've thrown away in this modern world so much that has been dear to us. And of course, another one here, George Ewart Evans, again, writing in the 60s, looking back to the 30s, the 20s and 30s, and looking at things like the old windmills and various things, the farm and the village. And he wrote numerous books. And these, I think, to me, are a warning of life that we had that was integral, had meaning, had purpose, was visceral to many people. People were there on the landscape. They were with their animals. They were with the plants. Everybody in these old villages and towns, they had some connection. They helped. They grew stuff. We've lost so much in this modern way. We've given it away to the governments. We've given it away to the corporations. We've said goodbye to intelligent people who could do things with their hands. We now go to these big manufacturers and we think that we are living a life of luxury and purpose with these phones that hypnotize us and are dumbing us down and dulling us. Our kids are being indoctrinated and taught to be sexual creatures. We've done some very bad things in the last 100 years. The biggest is that we've let go. We've let go of our responsibilities and we've let go of our community and our sense of purpose and pride. And I think it's time that we look back and say, what did we throw away in the bathwater of times gone past? I'm not suggesting that we all have to pick up the scythe and the pitchfork and go back and do manual back-breaking work. But I am suggesting that there was a lot of stuff that we have had in the past that was integral to life. And now we are on that precipice, whatever it is, the brink of a life in which the digital world is pulling us in to this transhumanism, this non-human status. We were human 100 years ago. We laughed, we cried, we worked, we had pride, we had something. Of course, life goes on and we need to progress, but we've thrown so much away, and now it's time to revigor that, to push back against these tyrannical governments, these councils that are not listening, and say, look, if you don't represent us, we're not going to fund you. We're going to set up our own parallel councils, our own parallel government. We're going to get on and just do it. Instead of whining and moaning and saying, oh, this is what they're doing, forget them. Make them irrelevant. Group together and set up your own communities. Fund the money that you would be paying to them, put into smaller gatherings, your own councils, your own alternative government. This is what we need to do. Make these people irrelevant. No man is born above another. We're all born equal. Let's remember that. We don't have to be in their system with their fake names and their capitalisation and their dominance and their tyranny. Yes, they may have some thugs and they may have sticks and they may have prisons. But remember, there's more of us than there are of them. And it's only a question if we acquiesce, if we consent, if we allow them jurisdiction. If we don't play their game, they are impotent. We want to play our own game and thrive. And that's my message for today.